Ourselves over here in the United Kingdom for part 2 of that tawdry BBC documentary, The Princes and the Press. But what I can reveal today will definitely change the narrative of how you may watch it. Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the heart of London, still inside a warm studio today, thankfully. And of course, that is one of the big breaking stories coming out of London today. And what I always say to you, we tell you what we find out. As I told you last week, I was invited onto that particular programme. I turned it down because, once again, I thought it was a little bit tawdry. And here's the thing. They didn't want to supply the questions in advance, so you didn't really know what the narrative was until you sat down in the studio. Now at that point, let me explain how this works. The production team sit you down, then you sign your contract, your form, and then you sign your, disclaimer. So basically they can edit, remove, use your footage any which way that they wanted. Now, what I can tell you about this documentary, which may shock a lot of people, is quite a few close friends in this royal, circle that we call the royal beat did sign on for the dotted line. And now, after seeing the very first episode, even though they requested to see it in advance, they're very upset, and for good reason too. One particular lady works for a leading international newspaper. She was there for 2 hours, and basically she made around 1 minute 20 seconds of that programme. She said that the presenter was particularly charming, debonair, very friendly and easygoing. Now, you would have thought that a journalist of her standing would understand how it works. He was there, obviously, to trap her into saying something. When they can't get you to do that, then they look at the edit and wonder if you could roll your eyes a little bit, if you look a little bit sad, or make sure that they don't respond and hold on to the final take, so it looks like you're either agreeing, contemplating, or against. I hope you understand what I'm saying at this point. But what's happened now is not just one journalist, but a good number of the journalists are very unhappy with the programme. There's very little they can do, of course, because, as I say, they sign their contracts and their disclaimers, so they now have to wait, like everybody else, to see what comes up. One of them, though, told me this. They contacted the presenter and the BBC, and they got this response. We'd very much like you to see the programme in advance, but the problem that we have is we're editing right up to the final minute. And because of that, we can't let anything out before it goes to air. Let me tell you, that's absolute rubbish. The programme itself is already cleared through lawyers. It has to be. You could not put a programme out that late without getting full clearance, at least 2 to 4 hours in advance with a lawyer. Don't forget whatever they've done to these journalists, and they gave a lot of airtime to the unauthorised biographer of Meghan Markle, the one who claimed he didn't receive any help writing his book. And of course, we saw popping up very glamorously lit the lawyer for Meghan and Harry. It's interesting to note that while they were simply not doctored, other journalists were. Make of that what you will. Now, has this been a success for the BBC? No. Have we seen the royal family getting upset about it? Yes. And of course, they've moved their carol service now over to a rival channel. Will the BBC really care? Well, given the fact that they like the presenter, who is a Republican and apparently, according to him, not too much a fan of the British monarchy, although that's all changed apparently since he joined the BBC, it remains to be seen what part 2 brings. No doubt more misery and, of course, more upsetting heartache for our glorious Majesty the Queen. Seemingly, though, the BBC doesn't think she's gone through enough this year. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.